Ian Robson here with a fishing experiment. Today we're looking at topographical maps. We're going to see what we can find out from a topographical map. So what we're testing out today is we're testing out the theories that Fluke Master suggested on identifying certain features on a map. Today we're looking at the Big Rideau map, or Big Rideau Lake, sorry, and we're on the Navionics website. You can get a mobile version of this website as well. So here we are right here. First things first, let's take a look at a point. So here's an example of a point right here. As you can see, we have a triangular shape right here, and it comes out slowly. So if you look carefully, it goes from 16 feet right here, and then it goes to 28, 31, 35, 36, 37, 39. So that's an example of a point. Could be another example of a point, a much slower evolving point, but another example right there. Next thing, let's take a look at a hump. Let's see if we can find a hump. So if we're looking for a hump, what you're looking for is circles, basically. So here's an example of a hump right here. So this little section right here is 28 feet, 29, 31. So this is like a hill underwater, basically. That's an example of a hump right there on this map. All right, so here's an example of a saddle. So here we have a hump right here. So we go 31, 32, 30 feet. And here's kind of like a bit of a point right here, a slight point, and then we have this area right in here. So this is what Fluke Master suggests is a saddle right here. So we have this little area between a hump and a point. That's an example of a saddle. The next thing Fluke Master suggests looking for is creek channels. So here's an example of what he's talking about. So we kind of have the reverse of a point. So instead of it going out towards the water, it goes towards land. So here's an example. We have triangles going towards land. Now normally, depending on the map you're using, you will apparently be able to see a creek channel right in the middle. Okay, so that's an example right there of a creek channel. Let's see if we can find another one. So here might be another example. Now one thing that's missing from this map is apparently there's a line that goes through the middle of it showing where there's a creek channel. So here we just have like the bays kind of idea, but we don't have the creek channel identified to the best of my knowledge. The next thing we're looking for is a flat. So when a flat's described as is, you'll see the lines, the contour lines right here, they will be not as close together. So here's an example. So as you can see, we have a line right here, and then you have 5 foot, and then there's 4 foot. So there's not a big difference between here. So this would be considered where a flat might be. You might find weeds and stumps in there depending on the lake itself. So here's another example where it gets there's not much change in depth as you go back here. Here's another example over here. That could be a big long flat that goes 5 feet in a little tiny area there, and then it goes 2 feet, 4 feet right in there. Here's another example where it's a bit deeper in this context, but the depth change is not nearly as much. So it could be a shallow flat or a deep flat, just depends on the area. The next thing we're looking at is a secondary point. So in this context, we have a bit of a point right here, and this is all underwater, of course. And then as you see, this area right here kind of comes off to the side. So it's not following the same pattern anymore. So it's not going straight out this way. What's happening is pointing out in the opposite direction. So that's an example of a secondary point. Here's another example of a secondary point. As you can see, we have this point coming out right here, and then it kind of shifts. We have this other weird jutting area right here. This is another example of a secondary point based on what I understand from Fluke Master's video. Here's an example of a bluff right here. We have the side of the land right here, and that drops off severely to another section of water. So here we have the line saying 36 feet, and then here it's 70, 55. So here's an example of a here's an example of a bluff wall, right here where it's close to land and it drops off severely right there. So here's an example of a ledge. We have a whole bunch of contour lines right here, and then they kind of slow down a little bit. So from the top right here, it goes 30 feet, and then down here it's 55. So there's a little bit of a flat area right there. That would be considered a ledge, and ledge would be right at the top of it. So there you go. That's some examples of how you can use a website like Navionics to help you locate certain areas to fish for or to fish in for bass or other types of fish. As I mentioned, this is a free website that you can use. Also, there's an application you can get on your phone, which is free. However, there is a paid feature that you can get, which makes it a lot better. My name's Ian Robson from The Fishing Experiment, and if you enjoyed yourself, why don't you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Catch you guys later.